welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Verde Beach, and we are currently watching the Lewis Lumber Company burn down. So this was very visible in the city tour, and yeah, I figured we had to start here because it's quite the catastrophe. Thankfully, I think we're going to be okay, although we do have some other fire damage that we're going to need to deal with that's not over here. We'll take care of that near the end of the episode, because there's a couple of things I want to clear up from the previous episode. First of all, we have some of our streets that we need to name, our neighborhood that we need to name, and I want to clear up a little bit of confusion that was mentioned regarding this area right here, and whether or not what I suggested was a takings or not. So I discussed that a takings was if a community were to impose certain zoning restrictions simply based on a development proposal that came forward. What was different here was that the town actually had a comprehensive plan for this area. So a comprehensive plan would deliver a future land use plan, and that alone is enough for a community to reject a development proposal. That development proposal would have required a rezoning. That rezoning would have had to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and if it wasn't, it would require a comprehensive plan amendment. The community has the discretion to say, you know what, we're not going to change this from the uses that we proposed into the uses that you are proposing, and if they want to codify that, they can certainly go through and officially map. That said, the way that I framed it didn't make that very clear. The reason you'd maybe want to officially map this is so that if future politicians don't have the same gumption that the existing politicians have, they might cave to political pressure. So the types of things that could convince politicians in the future to develop this land would include things like a Target going in, a Culver's going in, a Starbucks going in, all things that drum up support from the local municipality, the neighbors, people that drive through here. A Starbucks in particular, it can be very compelling for people who drive through here because they want to stop at the Starbucks on the way to and from work, or maybe not from work. Shouldn't have coffee that late in the day, but that's neither here nor there, and not for me to decide when you drink your coffee. But a dog park, another great example. Let's say that the homes over here really wanted a dog park, and a dog park was proposed in this development. That could be reason enough for them to come out in favor of this development, put a lot of pressure on those elected officials, and allow that rezoning to occur. So this wasn't a takings because they had that comprehensive plan in place, and they were only strengthening their position with regard to the plan that they already had in the books. So that said, time to get into our development today. And with the power of YouTube, let's get this out of nighttime. As beautiful as it looks, it's going to be really difficult to name streets. Okay, so the other thing I did was actually to turn on the street names, because it's very difficult to name streets without the ability to do that. So the very first thing we're going to do is go ahead and rename this neighborhood. And there were some excellent names that were developed. So if we look at this, it's actually part of Myrtle Fields right now, the greater Myrtle Fields. So we need to fix this. And Austin Swanson brought up a name that I really liked. He said that because I was talking about Covenant so much, Covenant Hills might be a really nice name for this neighborhood. And I agree, so let's go with that. So this is now Covenant Hills. And El Demetrius said that it might be nice to honor some of the Discord members in this particular area. So I decided to pick out a group of Discord members that are near and dear to my heart, the council members. So we're going to go through and name these streets for the council members. So the very first one we're going to do is Aussie Street for Aussie Man. Myrtle Street. We're going to give Batch Myrtle Street. So Batch Biscar is Batch Street. And then Bedford, we're going to name that Priya Street. We'll rename this Datbra Street for Datbra Skull. This will be J Street for Dog BJ. This will be Dreamineer Way, which I really like the name of that. And this is for Dreamineer. Right here, we will have Pooch Street for Pooch the Doggo. And then right here, we will add in Kiwi Street for Sarby Kiwi, or Scarby Kiwi rather. And then we get two more. We have Shoya Street for Shoya and Car Street for the car lover. So I believe that should cover most of our streets. We do have a couple of more, so I will take care of that. Discord Place. And why don't we honor a moderator? This will be Will Street or Will CS. So that should be all of our street naming in this area. Don't think I missed any. And some of these other streets have already been named. Like this one. Oh, it actually hasn't been named. So we'll need to come up with something for Evans. And Evans is a problem, truthfully, because it wraps around. So there's two intersections of Evans and whatever this street is, which this is Semper Verde. Holy cow. This is Semper Verde. All the way over here. Myrtle Avenue crosses, and when it reaches Sunset Boulevard, it becomes Semper. Oh no, Semper Verde is right here. So it must be when it crosses Keller House. Yep. Myrtle, Semper Verde, Keller House. And then it reaches all the way over here. So this is kind of becoming the Colfax of this city. Colfax being the longest street in the continuous street in America. I think it's like 54 miles or something like that. So we did miss upgrading this little bit of road here as well. So why don't we take care of that? And this truthfully could be a bus carrying street, but I think it'll be fine without it. The traffic volumes don't seem to warrant it at this point in time. So let's go ahead and get our trees upgraded. And then finally, one thing that I noticed that I missed, I notched out this area. And the reason I did that is I wanted to add a little bit of an office presence here. We've got this high quality transit. It's within the neighborhood. This would be very valuable land. I think we'll see that if we look at our values. Yeah, this is way too valuable to leave undeveloped. And truthfully, there's not a lot of demand for office right now, so we'll add some commercial right there. High density, one little node of it, and it'll be very beneficial for these folks coming out here as well. So I like that. So today we are going to focus over here and develop a residential neighborhood. Lewis Lumber Company coming back to life. Love it. So this is some really challenging land to develop, but it's very valuable. So you see this, it's just straight down, and let's see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 meters of decline to the water. So what that means is that if we look down, it just kind of drops off. So the way that we're going to have to deal with this is some terracing. But we've also got some really interesting things going on here. And that is, if you look at this, we've got some really great views. You can see the Lewis commemorative monument right over there. Some excellent views of these islands, which at some point will become something very beneficial. We've also got some opportunities. So we've got a ferry stop over here, and I've been told that I'm not using the ferry stops appropriately, and I aim to rectify that today. So that is going to be something that we focus on. So the idea behind this that Maggie Myrtle has is she wants a radial layout that focuses towards view corridors. So if you think about that, that's things like this, interesting view here, right here, another interesting view. And then if we stretch over here, we get a nice view of the tallest buildings in the area. So this is exactly what we want to think about. So the very first thing we're going to do is terrace some of this off, and we'll take care of that right now. So let's go into here, and I want to make these gentle terraces. So we're going to start at our first terrace level and bring it up for about one width's worth of buildings. And you see it drops off right there. So I guess we'll have to take our height here and slope. We'll have to find a nice way to blend that in. So we'll come through, we'll add this terrace here. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, kind of going up and down. And we'll try to give enough space to have a full block width in the terrace. So we'll have to go down a bit further. We don't want too many terraces. That'll eat up 100% of the buildable land. And my guess is that the value of this is having that buildable land. You're not going to push this much dirt around if you're not going to have significant building pads. And then we also want to respect the existing terrain and think about ways that we can integrate this build into that. So I'm grabbing this height right here at this road, and that will be our next terrace. And of course we ran out of soil. Thankfully we can build it, or we can buy it now. So I want to start to straighten this out now. So the DNR would likely have a lot of problems with what I'm about to do. So the Department of Natural Resources, that is, they would look at this and they would have to make sure that this isn't going to negatively impact the environment too much. Obviously, a whole bunch of terracing isn't great for the environment, but in some cases you kind of do what you have to do. You have to weigh the pros and cons of it. And I would say that there are many worse things that could happen here. And then we're going to have one final height, and this is going to be the most important height that we have. So this is a pretty significant drop off, but it's a very important height because this is where some of our highest land value is going to be. And it's also land that we're going to have to pick a height that doesn't lead to lots of flooding. And you can tell that it's already a problem with the height that I chose, so I'm going to go up a little bit higher. So Maggie is hoping that this development in particular will really fund everything else that she's done, or everything else that she's planning on doing. And to make that happen, she's got to have so much capital. So especially with this waterfront area, if she can generate a ton of revenue, she'll be able to fund the development of Palma del Fuego. She'll be able to fund the development. So let's pop over here and see what's happening. I'm going to speed this up. Always dangerous with water to speed it up, but we're going to do it anyway. We'll see what happens. And I'm going to probably want to adjust some of these heights to normalize them a little bit. And this is what I mean. This terrace right here, not very high. This one's right here, not very high compared to this one. And this one is pretty extreme. So I'm going to grab this height right here and just raise this up. It should be a little more reasonable. Need more soil again, unfortunately. So I should also try to line these up with connections to Semper Verde if we can. And it looks like right about here, if I connect this over, that is a connection. Whoops. And we'll come over here and do the same thing. And that one's not going to work as well. We'll need to do something a little bit more extreme there. We'll loop this around here. And there's a little bit of ponding back there. I don't love that. It's going to be very difficult to fix that. Now, one of the things I did consider, and I did practice with a bit, was attempting to add some key walls here. You know, you can certainly do it in vanilla. I will tell you, it's not for the faint of heart, because you are going to need some significant patience. And truthfully, I think I don't have it, because I tried, and it took me, I'd say, a good hour just to get 2 of the key walls done out of the 4 that I would likely need. And with that, it was messy. I was bleeding financially. Just not really worth it. If you really want to do that, you really need to get a mod. That's one of those things. You can do a sunken highway easily enough because that's a corridor. And you could try to do that with these. You'd have to make a whole bunch of corridors, cuts, and then make it happen. But the payoff isn't that great for the amount of effort. And at a certain point, you've got to just say, you know, landscaping is an excellent tool as well. And we can utilize landscaping to really facilitate and accommodate our vision. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so we've got our terraces. Now we could just be boring with it and draw some roads up the side, a couple going up and down, call it a day. But we don't want to do that. We can do better. So first of all, let's finish off creation of our embankment here. Maybe this is the Army Corps of Engineers coming in and making sure that we have a nice bank here that we could reinforce. So I want to think about the views that we want to preserve. So we're going to do that, but I think it might make more sense to actually come through with our key walls first. So we're just going to have a simple seawall here. And I find that the easiest way to do this is to go ahead, grab some dirt roads, and give yourself a straight line to work with. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, now I want to check this to make sure my heights didn't change at all. They look pretty darn good. and we can get this where we want it to be as well. So now we have some guidelines that we can work with. So we'll come through here, we'll grab our key wall, and I want to have just a couple of things on. So road guidelines and angle, and that's basically it. So now I can pop myself out and think about what I want to do here. So I almost want buildings to come out. What we're going to do, let's pull this out just a bit further. So now what I can see is that I have enough space with my key wall. If I play my cards right, I should be able to preserve a full building width. That's what I want to preserve. I got 4 tiles right there. That is exactly what I want to preserve. And you can see I can follow this now, nice and clean. So I need to widen this so that I can continue to preserve that. And this is what's making this key wall financially viable, because this would be incredibly expensive to have this sort of key wall built. So there we go. Not 100% sure if that's perfect just yet, but we're going to go with it and we will see. So I'm going to pull this down. And again, I'm just sticking with my road guidelines and my angle. And there's going to be an angle where I start to turn. And I believe it's right here. And from right here, I'm going to switch to my freeform tool. And this one will undoubtedly be very tricky. I got a little bit too wide on this end, and it's penalizing me for that. So I will just feather this out just a little bit. Hopefully that does the trick. Truthfully, I'm struggling a bit to see. Yeah, you can see right there, the key wall's off. So I'm going to try to bring it back a little bit, and you see that it's just really a challenge. That is preserving my 4 tiles, so I can go a little bit further. There we go. A nice even edge and a gap. And a gap. Oh, I got the wrong key walls here. Not a big deal. We can upgrade. There we go. So a nice even key wall here. There's a little bit of a bump here that I don't love. I'm going to try to fix that. I'm letting perfect be the enemy of good here. And we'll see if it pays off. I'm guessing it won't. It never does. So I'm going to call that slightly better. I think that's better. It's not perfect. Oh, and it could be though if I just went a bit further. So what I'm noticing is the gap in between the tiles. And if I just keep sending this back a little ways, it seems to be improving ever so slightly. Okay, I think this is where I say we're going to let good enough be good enough. That's pretty darn good, very even. And we can clean up the base by coming down here. We'll be very gentle with it. We'll pick a lower height and we'll just come along here on the key wall. Just lower it right in front of this. Okay, and I think that's particularly important with this key wall because of how decorative it is. Look at how beautiful that key wall is. And you would have an excellent view here. Oh, look at that. Just a wonderful view. So now is where I want to start to think about some of our radial features. So we've already kind of made one of these a bit challenging. What we'll do is have a road coming at an angle. So we're right here and we'll direct this right up this way. So from here, you'll get that view corridor and we should have some sort of something that would help us maintain that view. The other view that we're going to want to take a look at is right here. And then another one is right here. And you might wonder, what am I going to do with all these crazy roads I just put in there? Well, these are our guidelines for what we are about to do. There we go. I'm not sure how much I'm in love with that. We'll have to give that some more thought, but this is what I want to do in these areas, is preserve these. Maybe this is our critical area for that. No, I want to say Lewis lumber is going to be much more important. So we'll add one over here and we'll see how that works. And maybe I will just square it up. We'll see how that looks. Yeah, I think that makes a ton more sense. Yeah. As I look at this, I think to myself, wow, that's pretty terrible. All right, well, you know, that's the nice thing about using dirt roads is you can go back to the drawing board and rethink your very best ideas and find out that they are not good. Now this one's going to be considerably more challenging just simply because of what we're trying to do here. But not at all insurmountable. Now this to me is a heck of a lot more logical. So we're going to keep this here because we're going to also have some 45s. So you can see those nice 45s, and we'll run those out from here as well. And these are really going to signify the heart of this entire area. And the nice thing about this is we're going to now just extend these out, and then we'll use these as our paths for guiding exactly how we're going to make these connections. Really hoping it wouldn't totally mangle the road there, but it did. So the reason I care about that is I'm going to come through here with my slope terrain tool. We'll come up here, and then I need to, you know what? I think I have a better idea. Here's what we'll do. Use all of our tools at our disposal. These gravel paths are not going to terraform, so I'll just come up here and stretch these out. So now I can use that as my guide for my terrain. So here's what I'll do. I'll go into the economy tab. That was not what I want to do. So I'm going to come here, grab my top terrain, right mouse click, come to the bottom. And we're not going to go all the way to the bottom because we want this to remain flat. We'll come up maybe here, and then we'll slowly slope up. You can see just how nice a job that did. And the nice thing is I should be able to just go through here with my dirt road. And there we go, right over the top. Perfectly sloped, more or less, with an excellent view all the way down. I think this is a good example of an area that we're going to struggle a bit. So we're going to need to separate this into two separate terrain height areas. So we're going to flatten this area out, and basically we'll just need to start there and pull this up here instead. That means it'll be steeper, but it also means that this crossing can occur in a rational way. And it's not all that steeper, just a bit, just a bit. And I think that everything we're doing right here is a great example of why pre-grading things is so important. This is not possible, and making this look rational is not possible without all of the earthwork that we're doing. And we're doing a ton of it up front. We haven't built a single thing yet, and we're just prepping things. But that care and attention to detail will give you a better result that you don't have to fix a bunch in the long run. So I think it's worth it. Now here's another crossing, and we're going to need to give that some thought. It makes me regretful of putting that road in because it's not going to work right now. Okay, and with that, I think that we have all of these prepped. So let's get these dirt roads in place. Now, one of the things I wanted to do before I get too far along is ensure that I have a good connection to the road I want to meet. This is not a good connection. I got to move this one down just a bit. I won't be able to tie in, but that's going to be very important to me. If I can come in at a 90, I'm going to do it every single time. There we go. There's one down. And this one is going to be a challenge too. We'll just run it up here and see what happens. So the reason this is a challenge is we have a node right here that is not happy about what we're doing. So we've got to meet that node where it's at, and it's just slightly off skew, and it's going to have to be okay. And it looks like we actually missed one sloping session. So I'll take care of that quickly. So here I just made a node that I could connect into by lining this up on the other side of the road. Now I forgot my road guidelines on it, that's why I'm missing some of my connections, but now I have a nice clean connection there. I'd get rid of that. Very good. Now with this one, I'm a little bit more dubious about my connection. I think this is a little bit too close, so just to have a decent block spacing, what we are going to do is re-slope this out. Let's line it up with this road where that would naturally come in, and then we'll grab the terrain height here, and we're going to slope up that way. Then we'll bring this down, get rid of those guidelines, just have our angle, and that's where we want to make our connection. So interestingly, it looks like I got off a little bit here. So we're going to need to do a little bit more grading. Not a big deal. We can take care of that. We'll slope again. We'll come down here. And we should think about where we actually want to connect. I think that we need a bit more space in between these two junctions. So we'll come right here, slope it up this way. Now this one, I really would love to make a solid connection to this collector that we already have. So we are going to do a little bit of work here as well. And the way that we're going to handle this is we will grab this terrain height, slope it on over here. And we're going to have a bit of a jog in the road to accommodate this. Now I'll use the freeform tool. It's going to be my best friend here, along with the curved road tool. That is a sharp angle, a sharper angle than I would like anyway, but it should do the trick. You can start to see we've got our roads and they're starting to fill up and populate this area. Feeling pretty good. This is a simple one, and I don't care that this one's not at a 90. Makes perfect sense to me. This one's going to be close enough. There we go. Let's get rid of some of this stuff we have going on in here. You can see our terraces are pretty well worked over at this point. But that's okay. They are only guides because we want to make sure that through here we've got enough space to go a full 10 tiles back. So that is really where we need to be. Let's take a look at what that did to our terrain. It did go up a bit. Let's go ahead. We're going to smooth this out. So in between here is 1,120. So 560 is going to be our center point. Let's see if we can find that. That's our center point. So I'm a little bit off. And even this guideline's a little bit off. Let's try that one more time. So I'll pull this back. Maybe we can't go a full 10. Maybe we go 180 back. But this road right here is going to be very important to us. And look at that. It doesn't line up. Oh, so frustrating. So the key walls can really break everything. Let's give this one more shot. I'll just get this road back in here. Now it's no longer straight. Perfect. Well, I'm not going to let perfect be the enemy of good. We'll just accept this. It's completely acceptable. I'm going to temporarily add this here because that's going to be our guideline for our next terrace level. You can see it's pulling away a little bit. It's interesting. It's not giving us our maximum density, but I think that we're going to go with a little bit of imperfection here. And we'll do the exact same thing over here. We do need to be mindful. Actually, we ended up going straight across, so we should be okay. It is a little bit wonky. Okay, this is going to drive me nuts. I'm going to fix this quickly. Okay, so that's what I've settled on. It's 180 up. It's not perfect. There's that little jog here that kind of messes everything up, but we're going to live with it. And then here, we're going to do the exact same thing. Make sure that we are preserving as much space as we can behind here. And then we'll pull everything up. And actually, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just pull it up right up to this. And then here, I want this to feel a little bit more natural. So we'll grab this terrain height and slope this up. That's better. And we'll have dueling infrastructure, basically. Another series of roads right along here. That is a very steep road. That's not happening. So we're going to need to pick our locations. And really that's probably going to be these radial streets. These are going to be temporary. We'll just make sure that we are coming up here. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the next terrace level after we make enough space. So this is certainly a significant project. Again, that's 180. I'm going to go back a little bit on this here. I think that it's really important that we have this roadway connection. So I will make sure that we are making it. From a connectivity standpoint, without this area will really be hampered. I would really love to make this connection here. And I'm even starting to feel like this could be a nice connection as well. These could be the collectors that carry everything through the neighborhood. So let's go ahead and make that happen. And what I'm needing to do here is actually grab my terrain height to my left and pull it to my right. And that is giving me a nice, clean connection. And you can start to see, even though we've got this terrain, we're making something special happen. Let's grab it here and grab it from here and make a nice place for our road. Okay, so what you can see is at the ends, we're going to have these connections. Now, the funny thing is, I've worried so much about the center. The center is very clear. It's where this is. So I should have been able to find that fairly simply. I'm just going to run this down here. This is likely not going to stay, but it will help me figure out that center point and get rid of these other little angle bits now. Although truthfully, I kind of like the idea of having a very intense intersection right in the center of this. I probably shouldn't. It's going to be a problem. Yeah, we're going to get rid of that. Deviates from our pattern a little bit too much. Okay, so this is our next terrain height. And this is going to be an important one because we're going to actually want to be able to connect up with Semper Verde right over here. So we're going to send this up, and this will be our connection right in here. Now, I mentioned the collector couplet, and I really like the concept. So what we're going to do is really formalize that. Come through here. Let's slope right into this. And I'm going to turn just my grid on, because right here is where we're going to have our collector couplet connection. So I'll draw a small segment there. Here's where I want it to connect in. Now it should be fairly simple to make this. And because I know this is going to be there, I'm just going to formalize this right off the bat. There we go. And that's going to be a little bit tricky. We haven't done our work with this road just yet, so we'll get to that in just a second. In fact, I think we've got to do that right away. So this one we're going to make considerably more gentle. The main thought being there is that we want to make sure that our connection into this collector is as good as it can be. And then this, again, we'll get back to our 180. And we want to flatten all of this out into this terrace area. So a lot going on here, but I think we're making some good progress. Now you can see me just grabbing some of these guidelines that I have and reestablishing roads, making these look very even. Now there's going to be a lot of funneling in this neighborhood, just bluntly, because of some of the design choices that we've made that were forced by the terrain. You know, you got to work with what you have, and we have some unique topography here, so we're going to need to deal with some of that, unfortunately, for lack of a better way of explaining it. I think I might just cut it off here, and we'll let something else happen in this area. It's a little bit of there's a complete change in direction in this area, so I think it's going to be fine that we change what we're doing. And we will use our sloped road tool to get this going. And truthfully, I like the idea of coming through here, and if we're going to change the road pattern at all, let's go all out. There we go. So now there's some logic to it. Now this road goes up, and I'm regretting that decision. We are going to take that back, and we'll get this fixed. I think that what we're seeing is that we don't have to have such an extreme slope if we are very thoughtful about this up front. It's a little bit lower. It's not quite as extreme. I'm going to do the exact same thing on these other two as well. Okay, So I want to start getting some of this going. There's a lot of work that's going on, and you can imagine that if the development is taking this long to get done, they are not going to build everything all up front. Now, I have planning roads and they're helpful, but I do want to start getting something developing. So we're going to do that right now. But I do want to finish this road off in some logical way, so we'll come through and terminate this here. And now this is kind of a logical extension of the university area as well. This is going to be heavily residential, so to me it makes perfect sense that this is the way it would terminate. I'm wondering if we can take this little area and give it a nicer ending. That's much nicer. So let's get this a couple of the main roads established in this area. So the very first ones I want to think about are the roads coming off from this collector network here. Let's get the directionality right here. And then from there, I want to get all of these other roads in place. Now these are going to be the main corridors carrying traffic through here, and that's fine. We can be collector heavy, but I don't want them to all be 4-lane collectors. That's way overkill. So what I think we'll do is coming right down the center of these view corridors, we'll have collectors there, but they'll be 2-lane, and then we'll just have 2-lane roads coming up from the other ones. That angle got very challenging. It's unfortunate, but I think we're going to let this be. There's not a lot that I could do without lots of reconstruction to make this work. And some might be necessary. You see, it doesn't like this anyway anymore. And then for these other roads, I'm going to upgrade them just to normal treeless roads. These are going to be some of our roads that are not as important. Interestingly, it doesn't like some of my connections here, and I think part of that is the height, which is unfortunate. I'm going to see if I can just reestablish this and then reconnect it up. It's okay with that. It's just a little bit too close, I think. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of the neighborhood done. We've still got more work to do, but what I want to do now is get some water pipes underneath here, underneath the road where they belong, and then get some development, spur some development in this area. Okay, so this is the beginning, and this is going to be predominantly residential. We're gonna make sure that we're preserving some of these view corridors, so we'll come through here, and I just want to block these off with some paths. Now you can see the vision now a little bit more. So we are going to have density along the shore and taper up from there. A nice mix of uses, and anywhere that we have these kind of semicircles, we're not going to place any buildings in front of them. I do think I didn't do a great job with this path. I want that symmetry to seem like it's radiating out from there. So we'll do that. Maybe in this entire area we'll leave this a park. Maybe not. So let's go ahead and get a few buildings in place. And the nice thing about this is this gives us an opportunity to do a couple of things that have been mentioned, such as offer an opportunity for there to be some commercial uses for some of the residential folks that you would assume are living next to the dorms here. So we're going to pack in the density near the college campus and have some commercial uses. You could think those would be like bars and, you know, restaurants, things of that nature, right near the campus. And then, like I mentioned here, we're just going to fill in some of these uses. We'll have a nice mix of uses. I'm just going to lay some of those out right now. We'll just add in a few squares of commercial here and there. The idea being that we just don't want this to be all one type of use. This will make this a walkable neighborhood should someone want to walk here. But again, primarily this is a residential area. I just want to make sure that I'm not inadvertently zoning any of those areas. There's a weird spot right here, and this must be where there's an angle where I only have 2 zoning locations. Kind of interesting. Now this is going to be an interesting little experiment in torture, because I don't know when this is going to connect up. So the height of realism today will be adding a power line right along the shore temporarily to get everything hooked up. Can't build on water. I don't understand. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to fill in behind this. Again, from these collector corridors, we'll have commercial and office. And we'll have a couple of these that are just really dedicated to office. Now we're going to have to add in a ton of city services. This is a monster neighborhood, so we're going to need to do a lot here. But we can start out with this for the time being. And then we'll fill the front side in with higher density. And then from there, we're going to drop right into lower density residential. That is really what Maggie's vision is for this area. And we're going to roll with it. Now, I missed one thing that I intended to add through here, and that is some pedestrian connectivity and a nod back to old Verde Beach. So we're going to use some eminent domain to build paths. That is the height of realism. Now, the unintended consequence is that we're actually getting more zoning tiles here, which I did not expect. That's kind of a happy accident right there, because that, or at least it appears that that's what happened in the area with the curve. It's not happening over here, and that's okay. But it is helping us formalize our uses and provide a bit of a division between the uses that we didn't really have before. So I appreciate that. So it's formalizing that dividing line between the high density and the low density. You don't need it, but from a city skyline standpoint, it makes it very, very easy to see what your game plan was. In the future, and short of having some sort of planning tool, it's very helpful to be able to do this. So there you go. You start to see some of the vision. I want to take a look at the power. We do still need this. It's okay. Let's let this run for a minute and see where things go. Okay, so at this point you might have been wondering, why is it growing so slow? And a lot of that likely has to do with the lack of power. That makes perfect sense. I don't know why that's not connected. That's interesting. We are missing something over here. I'm going to need to fix that, because it looks like it should be connected, but for some reason it just stops. So to me, that is some sort of power shortage due to a lack of connectivity somewhere. So I'm very curious. Oh, this is all my fault. So I'm running 100% of the power in this neighborhood off from this windmill. I'm impressed that it got this far, truthfully. So why don't we'll establish another temporary connection. In fact, let's just formalize it. So I had a temporary road up here. Let's just put that in place. What we're going to do is grab this height up here, grab this height and slope up from here. Okay, and from here, I feel like the connection to the power is going to be a lot cleaner. So let's just follow the road. This will be replaced at some point with properties, but at least it's a nice connection at this point in time. And truthfully, at this point, we've done some work here that would justify upgrading some of these roads. While we're waiting for development, let's get this done as well. And I'm going to upgrade the trees in this entire neighborhood right now. There we go. That's looking a lot better. And now we're starting to see some of this development fill in. And I'm wondering if I get rid of these terrible power lines. I can. Thankfully, not a fan. There we go. And I'm going to let this go for another minute and see what happens. Let's get a really good vantage point, though. You can see what this has created. These little areas, and these trees right here even should probably not be quite so tall. In fact, around the circle, I'm going to downgrade these so that we preserve those views. That was the whole purpose of these anyway, so there we go. That is much better. Now you'd be able to pop through here, and this is the street level feel, and it feels just spectacular. And then you look, and anywhere there's an intersection with a street, you get a nice view of the shore. And the other thing this does is it provides you the ability to walk along the shore and have water right there if you want it. So that's really nice. And right up here, as we start to terrace up further, you will be able to get views of the city in single-story, two-story buildings from up here, but you're preserving views at both shore level and then the top couple stories of the next terrace up. So that's the whole game plan there. This, we actually, now that I think about it, it's unfortunate the height of this, because they will have their views obstructed. So this is a nice place to live, basically because of the proximity to the to everything happening down here. But it's not good because of views. That's not going to be an attraction in this particular area. So I'm going to let this go for just a moment and see what happens. We are going to need to add city services, but the reason I'm not adding them yet is we're going to activate the shore here with a number of services and parks. And then as far as city services go, obviously we need healthcare. I want those set back further so that we aren't using the most valuable land in this neighborhood for city services. The closer we get to this, the less desirable all of this is. And if you look, if we have our services up here, we're still reaching down here for the most part. So we're going to have a mirroring block along here, and we're going to have all of our city services in this area so that we are preserving. And when we look at this, we look at our land value, even without anything here, you're starting to see this lighten up and turn into a valuable area. So why put city services in that area? It doesn't make sense. So we're just going to avoid that. So let's let this go for a moment, and I'm going to decorate just a couple of things as well. Okay, so I just wanted to do a little bit of decorating along these cliff edges. They are pretty steep, so I added a park fence along here and some coconut trees down there, and where there's some lumpies and bumpies, some oaks, and I really like the way that looks. To me, now it turns what was kind of an ugly and unsightly area into something that is attractive and seems purposeful. So I like that. We're going to do more with landscaping, but not right now. Right now, I think that we are going to just pop in here and take a brief neighborhood tour. That was a lovely tour. There's not a lot happening yet in this neighborhood. We've done a lot, but the results don't necessarily speak to that just yet. So there were other things I wanted to do today, but I had one of those experiences, and that I'm guessing you all have had, where you decided to take on a big project and you realize after the fact you bit off way more than you could chew, at least in one session. And this is that for me. In fact, when we take a look at what I decided to develop today, as opposed to last time, it's about double, and I shouldn't be surprised that this will take me 2 episodes. So That's totally fine. I think it's better that we separate this and give it the thought that it deserves. But one thing I do want to do before we end this is make this a neighborhood. And part of that is I want to look at the statistics of this area. So let's pop through and make this a neighborhood. And I already have a name from the comments, a name that I didn't go with for the previous neighborhood that I think will fit really well here. So Ice Dre recommended the neighborhood Myrtle Gardens, and you know what? We're gonna go with it here. And this is because this is really the crowning achievement of what she has been able to build here. So why not make this her main namesake? So Myrtle Fields is shrinking. That's really what we're taking and cutting everything into. Myrtle Hills over here, Myrtle Gardens. It'll be a beautiful place to live, maybe where she lives. Let's take a look at this, though, and see what we're looking at. We've already got a population of 2,391 in here. Land value's low, not surprising. We don't have any parks in this area or city services to speak of. We're borrowing from other areas, but the buildings are still leveling up, which is pretty impressive. And over here, this neighborhood is half of that. All single story, and it's not surprising that, we have a low density residential neighborhood. This is what you'd see. Interestingly, again, decent little neighborhood in terms of land value, kind of middle of the road, which is great. Interestingly, Mill Hill, I just wanted to check in on it. It is it's nearly maxed out, which is not what was supposed to happen over there, which is unfortunate. It shows how difficult it is to make an affordable neighborhood in this game. When we look over at Myrtle Park over here, even that, we're almost at level 4 for average. For our residential, Banana Heights, yeah, just a little bit about that. So Myrtle Hills over here, again, that's supposed to be college housing still. You provide services and places level up quickly. So not much I can do about that, unfortunately, but we can be pleased with where this is, and I am. I hope you are as well. If you like this, please hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.